Hello and welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, share and like my videos. This story talks about how a young man grew from nothing to become a multimillionaire in Nigeria. Relax and enjoy the story. Once upon a time, there was a young Nigerian man named Chidi. He was born into a very poor family in a small village outside of Lagos. His parents were subsistence farmers who could barely grow enough crops to feed their family of 6 children. From a very young age, Chidi had to work hard in the fields alongside his siblings, planting seeds, weeding, and harvesting whatever meager crops they could coax from the dry, nutrient-poor soil. Life was a constant struggle against poverty, hunger, and hard labor under the relentless African sun. Despite the difficulties of his upbringing, Chidi was a bright and inquisitive child. Whenever he could find a spare moment away from chores, he pored over the few tattered books and magazines that occasionally made their way to the village, determined to educate himself. Chidi's parents could barely read or write themselves, but they recognized their son's intelligence and encouraged his scholarly interests however they could. Education is the key to escaping this life of hardship, Chidi's father would tell him. When Chidi turned 10 years old, his parents decided to make an enormous sacrifice for his future. They scraped together every last bit of their meager savings to pay for him to attend a low-cost boarding school run by a charity in Ibadan, one of the nearest cities. It meant going deeply into debt and struggling even more for food, but they believed it was Chidi's best chance at a better life. Saying goodbye to his parents and siblings was one of the hardest things Chidi had ever done. But he understood the huge opportunity he was being given, one that millions of other Nigerian children could only dream of. He promised to study as hard as he possibly could and make them proud. And study Chidi did, morning, noon and night. Though the school was poorly funded and the teaching quality was inconsistent, Chidi was a sponge for knowledge. He devoured his textbooks and read every book in the tiny library, filling notebook after notebook with notes and ideas. The other students gave Chidi a hard time at first, mocking his country ways and tattered clothes. But as the years went on and he consistently outperformed everyone academically, they began to respect his brilliance and work ethic. By the time Chidi graduated at the top of his class, he had earned the admiration of his classmates and teachers alike. With no money for further schooling, Chidi began working odd jobs after graduation, bussing tables, hauling goods, anything he could find to earn a few naira and send what little he could back to his struggling family. But he never stopped finding time to read and study advanced topics on his own, dreaming of one day becoming an engineer or doctor. When Chidi was 20 years old, his life changed forever. A foreign businessman who frequently visited the city happened to strike up a conversation with the bright-eyed young man who was serving him one day in a restaurant. He was impressed by Chidi's articulate manner and ambition despite his obvious poverty. The businessman's company offered Chidi a scholarship to attend university and study engineering if he could pass the entrance exams. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, one that millions of Nigerians could scarcely imagine. Chidi studied like he had never studied before, pawning his few possessions to buy textbooks and missing countless nights of sleep while preparing. Against all odds, he excelled on the exams and won the scholarship. Over the next 5 years, Chidi dedicated himself fully to his engineering studies. He slept few hours, eating cheap food and living in a run-down rooming house near campus, yet he stayed focused on his goal with almost religious zeal. When he wasn't attending classes or studying, he read vociferously about entrepreneurship and business. Upon graduating at the very top of his class, Chidi had numerous multinational companies pursuing him with lucrative job offers. But he had bigger dreams than being an employee. Utilizing his knowledge of engineering and business, he decided to start his own construction company specializing in affordable housing and infrastructure for Nigeria's urban poor. With just a few thousand naira in startup capital borrowed from friends, Chidi began getting small construction jobs building simple houses and roads in the slums surrounding major Nigerian cities. He worked back-breaking 18-hour days, pouring every cent he earned back into hiring a few employees and getting more tools and materials. Despite many setbacks and a few failures, Chidi's business slowly grew through a combination of his tireless work ethic, ability to stretch resources, and brilliant engineering skills. He gained a reputation for honesty, quality work, and treating employees well, qualities highly valued yet rarely seen from contractors in the poorly regulated industry. After a decade of grinding away, Chidi's company had grown to employ over 500 people working on major housing and infrastructure projects across multiple Nigerian cities. His innovative construction techniques made his affordable yet sturdy buildings and roads very attractive to municipal governments. With his success as an entrepreneur, Chidi was finally able to buy his parents a large house and land where they could live comfortably in their retirement years without the back-breaking farm labor of their youth. He also paid for his numerous siblings to go to good schools and get educations and training. But Chidi didn't stop there. He used a portion of his profits to start a foundation that provided scholarships and funding for other brilliant yet impoverished Nigerian students to get educations. He mentored many young entrepreneurs personally, imparting his business wisdom and insisting they pay it forward to help others once they found success. By the time Chidi was 50 years old, he had built his company into a construction powerhouse that employed over 10,000 Nigerians across dozens of major infrastructure projects. He became one of his country's most respected business leaders and philanthropists, building affordable housing for millions and lifting countless families out of the grass and into grace. Despite his vast wealth and being courted by politicians, Chidi lived relatively simply and never lost his humility and compassion for the plight of the poor. He would often visit urban slums and small villages, remembering his own roots of sleeping on a dirt floor and working from dawn until dusk in the hot fields. Chidi used his fortune not just to create opportunity for others, but to be a living inspiration that no obstacle is too large if you combine brilliant determination with an unwavering ethical compass. From the grass of a poor village farmer to grace as a nation-building philanthropist, he had become living proof of the boundless opportunities of education and hard work. Long after Chidi was gone, future generations of Nigerians would continue to be empowered by the grassroots empire and legacy of compassion created by one man who defied all odds and dared to dream big. His story was a true Nigerian hero's journey, from grass to grace. The moral of the story is to encourage you to keep pushing, never give up irrespective of your background. You can still make it like Chidi.